Dr. Jay Barth is a distinguished professor of politics at Hendrix College and has been a longtime collaborator in our highly successful and accurate polling. Let's talk politics. Welcome.
Good day, Roby.
Oh, well, it's good to be with you. Let's talk about this education poll that we have done. Talk Business and Politics, Hendrix College, Impact Management Group. Our friend Clint Reed couldn't be with us this morning. So I want to start with the look at some public figures. We started this poll about the time that the RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, debate started at the legislature. We find Governor Asa Hutchinson has a 63% favorable rating as a result of this.
Yeah, it was actually right in the midst of that debate, and if we get a second, we could talk about how we saw how powerful that issue was in terms of breaking through with the electorate. But Governor Hutchinson off to a start that looks quite similar to his predecessor. He maybe is still a little less known than Mike Beebe was, of course, over the last six or 7 years of his governorship. But you know, I think Arkansans have gotten used to liking their governors, and especially their governors who I think appear to be fairly pragmatic. Don't polarize, don't seek out polarization. There seems to be that seems to be a recipe for getting it right with Arkansas's electorate, and he's in solid shape right now.
And he had a much different take than the Indiana governor Mike Pence did as a result of that debate. Right. Asa Hutchinson was supportive of that religious freedom bill before it got amended kind of back to the federal law there, but it just seems like maybe that didn't really break through to the electorate, that they saw him as brokering some sort of compromise.
Right, and I think those folks who followed this story the closest over the entire session know that there was some messiness in terms of the Hutchinson administration's dealing with this issue across the weeks of the session. But at crunch time, in those final 36 hours, the governor got it right. I think both in terms of how he presented the issue with that major speech, but then in a very quick period of time, kind of getting the conflict resolved.
Senator Tom Cotton, known to make a controversial statement or two, a little bit of a lightning rod at times, at least even nationally. We've seen him really vault to center stage on the national level. His favorable to unfavorable rating, 50% in favor of Tom Cotton, about 39% not, or viewed him unfavorably. That seems to be kind of tight to me. Yeah,
I mean, I think Tom Cotton is a very polarizing figure. As you note, he obviously won a fairly comfortable race for the U.S. Senate, but he has really gone out and become, especially on Iran and some other comments, really become a nationally known figure, but one who a lot of Americans know, and he's a very divisive figure there. He's a divisive figure in Arkansas. The advantage he has in Arkansas is that Arkansas is a more red state than the nation as a whole. And I think we're going to see this over the long haul with Tom Cotton. I think he really has a desire to be a shaper of public policy and public debate. And those folks who play that role end up really kind of.
There are strong feelings either way.
Both ways. So I think that's going to be the story of Tom Cotton over the long haul.
So the anti-Tom Cotton, Senator John Boozman, up for election in 2016, mild-mannered, low-key, has a 46% favorable rating, about a 20-point spread in terms of his favorable, unfavorable, but almost a quarter of folks have no opinion of John Boozman. Yeah. He's been in office for 5 years, going on now, heading to re-election. Is he in okay shape?
Well, and he's been on the state scene really going back to the 1990s. But yeah, you're totally right. And some would say, well, that indicates maybe he has some vulnerability because there's a lot of shaping of Bozeman that could take place. But I think because he is, I think a very, very nice man with I think a very good public persona, I think he's probably all right. He feels a little bit like Congressman Rick Crawford over in the 1st District. And since we've been doing our polling, we've said again and again, this guy looks really vulnerable because nobody knows who he is, but he still is able to succeed.
The lean of the lean, right.
And in this case, the lean of the state. I think we do know that, I think it probably would take Governor Mike Beebe getting in the race to to really reshape this race. And we've seen some polling that indicates that would be a very, very close contest.
All right. As I said at the beginning, the crux of this polling was really done to talk about some education issues. You're on the State Board of Education, so obviously some great insight in terms of the results that we saw here. What was your biggest education takeaway from our polling?
I think most interesting to me, two things. One was on the Common Core, which has gotten a tremendous amount of conversation. Obviously, Governor Hutchinson taking a pragmatic approach and establishing a task force to study Arkansas's place in the Common Core, led by the Lieutenant Governor. When the term Common Core is not used, but the standards that are part of the Common Core are described, it's very exceedingly popular.
Yeah, 74%.
Yeah,
I think,
so
right?
overwhelmingly popular. But we did some open-ended question, which, what do people think about when they hear the term Common Core? And what pops through there in a word cloud that was created, a lot more negative terminology. And so, the branding of the Common Core has been really fairly disastrous nationwide. We see that in Arkansas, but the concept is much more positive. And I do think that there are some signs that the most intense antipathy towards the Common Core has probably passed, and those proponents of it are beginning to figure out that they have to communicate in a really clear way about the benefits of the Common Core.
Yep.
The other big takeaway, and this was something that really we saw across a series of questions, was that despite the polarization of almost every other issue in American politics, be it foreign policy or domestic policy, education remains a fairly nonpartisan issue. Is that whether it's charter schools, whether it's Common Core, you name it, there's a lot of Democrats and Republicans look a lot alike in terms of how they behave and how their attitudes about education, and that's pretty exceptional. And some people would say, well, that's a pretty darn good thing in a very polarized country.
All right. He's Dr. Jay Barth with Hendrix College. Always great to get your insight. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Roby.